Now, like most people, I have very little time for gaming, but a huge amount of games that I want to play every year. That means I actually no, I never 100% games. I'm not getting all the achievements, I'm not beating all the secret bosses, any of that. If I can make it through the storyline to the end credits on a typical playthrough, that is usually enough for me to feel like I've experienced the game. Now, there are some games like competitive fighters or strategy games where I've spent hundreds of hours on, but for most games like FPSs, platforms, RPGs, and open world games, I'm usually not going to go out of my way to do a ton of side content before moving on to the next title in my ever-growing backlog of games. This is exactly how I played Deltarune, all the way from chapter 1 and 2 and 3, and then something different happened near the end of chapter 4. I came across a piece of additional content that I found so fascinating, so interesting, that I felt I had to stop my march to the end of the game to figure it out. Honestly, I did not have the time to do so. I was playing Deltarune on a flight on the Steam Deck, and I knew that once the plane touched down, it was back to work and family life, and gaming was going to be on hold for a while. If I wanted to see the ending of chapter 4, and I really wanted to before vacation was over, I would have to stop trying to do this optional content and finish the chapter. But I couldn't, I was stuck, I was transfixed, I couldn't give it up. If you're a Deltarune fan, you probably know what it was that I couldn't put down, but if you aren't, let me give you a bit of a breakdown of how Deltarune is laid out. The game is broken down into 4 different chapters which have already been released and 3 more which are currently still in production. Each of those 4 chapters has a secret boss which all takes some sort of practice to overcome. They're usually hidden in some ways, and there are particular steps you need to do to unlock the secret bosses. There's also a secret route, and I'll get more into that later. I was happily playing through the latest chapters released 3 and 4 on my flight, having an amazing time and happy that I am, trying to finish the story before getting back to my life. That was before I encountered him. That him is Gerson. You may remember him as the professor from Undertale. In this game, he comes back and sort of asserts himself as sort of a mentor for your party, and to one character in particular, Susie. See, Susie is a troubled kid and is dealing with a bit of self-doubt, but along comes Gerson with a plan to clear that right up. He offers Susie new perspective, some advice, and best of all, a shiny new axe. That is, assuming she is up to the task of landing a single blow on him. The storytelling here is so magical, and the gameplay hook of offering a shiny new weapon was enough for me to cancel finishing the rest of the chapter. Also, this fight is way less hidden than the last 3 had been. It was almost like the game really wants you to stop everything and do this. It also doesn't hurt that this has some of the greatest video game music of all time in this track for this fight. This fight changed me. I just had to beat him and get that hammer. I no longer cared about getting to the end of the chapter. I no longer cared about the ever-increasing backlog of games I wanted to try. Nothing else mattered except Susie getting that hammer. Also, this fight revealed some important plot details as it went on. So while I failed over and over, just getting one step further into the fight filled me with renewed purpose and vigor. Once I was home, every free moment I had, I fired up the Steam Deck and attempted to beat this boss over and over and over and over again. And oh, by the way, did I mention that I suck at bullet hell games? That's another reason why I never did any of the other secret optional bosses. After trial and trial and trial and trial, at last I finally beat him and collected my hammer. And oh, did that fill me with joy. I just stopped and stared at the screen for a bit, completely amazed at how I had finally done it. But along with joy, it also filled me with something else. Let's just call it determination. If I could beat this boss, why not the others? There isn't an easy way to backtrack in this game, so that meant starting a whole new playthrough from the beginning. And I did it. I went back and I beat the boss of chapter 1. Then, on a camping trip, after the kids and the wife were asleep, I loaded up the Steam Deck under the sleeping bag and fought and I fought and I fought until I finally beat the boss of chapter 2. I'd already beaten chapter 4's boss, and I was pretty sure I could do that again, so that only meant one boss left. But I had no idea what was waiting for me. If Gerson, the boss of chapter 4, was a fight designed to fill me with hope and determination, then the boss of chapter 3 was designed to fill me with regret, sorrow, anger, acceptance, dread, and mostly misery. This was not a fight I could beat. Not even after giving it my best shot. Not even after hours of struggling had I made much progress at all. I looked at videos and they offered hope in items which I didn't have, and that would mean starting all the way over from the beginning and going through again to get them. I figured that hours of practice were more valuable. I struggled and I struggled, and I saw one video that gave me a glimmer of hope. At last, after the hours and hours of trying and failing again, I was finally able to beat that last boss. I was free. I completed the game, beating every secret boss, and then I started another playthrough, going through all the secret routes. I was no longer content to enjoy the mere status quo of beating this game. I had to master it. But there's still 3 more chapters of this game, with the next one arriving next year in 2026. And you know what? I'm ready for it. I am now filled with determination. Thank you so much for making it to the end of this video. Please like and subscribe if you like this, and if you want to hear more gaming stories from me. Bye bye.